I am Chris Pickard. I am Director of Beat, Blood Pressure and Body Imbalance in the UK, and today we are going to apply some science to lipid panel, i.e. cholesterol. Hopefully you're going to understand what the numbers mean, so I'm going to help you look at your lipid panel and understand what it means and what action to take on, and also maybe why you might want to question your doctor a little bit more about the course of action that they might be taking, the most likely of which is, here, have a statin drug. I'm going to go over what science says about when not to give a statin drug, and some of the things you really should be questioning and asking your doctor about to investigate a bit further. And I'll also go into what integrative cardiovascular medicine has to say about what you should do, and can do rather, to actually lower your lipids and your cholesterol and bring things under control if it really needs to be done that way. So first of all, let's talk a little bit about, before I go into the lipid panel, just cholesterol itself. Cholesterol, there are different types of cholesterol. The ones that most people have heard of are LDL cholesterol, which is low density lipoprotein, and HDL, also known as the good cholesterol, which is HDL, which is high density lipoprotein. Now there's like VLDL, very low density lipoprotein, and there's some other bits of cholesterol as well. And when you go to your doctor, one of the things you're going to get taken when they look at your throat is your total cholesterol. Now cholesterol is very useful. Cholesterol is used in your body to do all sorts of things, such as you need cholesterol to make vitamin D. Did you know that? You cannot make vitamin D unless you've actually got cholesterol. And one of the ways, according to the cardiologist that I learned from about how to lower cholesterol and, well, how to optimize cholesterol is actually the better way to think of it. And a lot of my protocols for actually helping people with heart disease. He said one of the best ways to actually lower cholesterol optimally is to make sure you get enough sunshine. So you create D3 and that lowers your cholesterol. There we go. Simple. Get more sunshine. No drug needed. So, yeah, one reason you might have high cholesterol is because you're not getting enough sunshine. So where was it? Total cholesterol. So cholesterol is needed to make vitamin D, but you also need it to make, if you're a woman, you need it to make estrogen. If you're a man, you need it to make testosterone, because cholesterol goes to make these things. You also need cholesterol to make some other hormones in your body. Cholesterol is also needed to make all of your cells, your cell membranes, healthy. So if your cell membranes aren't healthy, then you're going to become insulin resistant. Which basically means you're going to be more likely to get diabetes. Your cell membranes aren't going to listen to thyroid hormone, so you might end up with thyroid hormone problems. You may end up with just inflammation, infections more easily exposed to viruses. All kinds of things can if your cell membranes are not healthy, and you need cholesterol to keep your cell membranes healthy. You need it for your brain health, you need it for nerve health, you need it for muscle health, you need it for all kinds of things. So cholesterol is really important. Okay. However, so you need it. So if you had none, you would be dead. It's quite simple, whether it's good cholesterol, bad cholesterol, or whatever cholesterol. So but this is pretty much the only graph that doctors the average doctor is what they're taught, okay, about cholesterol. And that is, and this is HD, so this is heart disease, or I'm going to say just heart deaths, basically. And as your total cholesterol numbers go up, the number of people that die from heart disease goes up as well. And the lower your cholesterol gets, the less heart disease. In fact, if you had no cholesterol, you wouldn't die of heart disease. But you'd be dead because you'd be dying of all kinds of other things. And so this is rather unfortunate. The doctors only look at this. And so they often, even cardiologists make this massive error. They think that the lower they can get your cholesterol, the healthier you're going to be, because all they're actually really doing is protecting you against one form of death, and that's heart disease. Whereas really, in reality, what happens as your cholesterol gets under a certain number, the actual chances of dying from anything goes up quite sharply. So while they're thinking that the lower the cholesterol, the better, the lower the cholesterol, the better, it gets to a certain point and boom, okay, death rate goes up massively. And this is particularly true of your HDL, your good cholesterol. If your good cholesterol gets too low, it's actually worse than your bad cholesterol and total cholesterol going up. And in fact, with HDL cholesterol, and even actually I think with overall cholesterol, the actual true thing, that the graph that needs to be looking at is a bit more like this. And so we're not looking at heart disease anymore, we're just looking at TD, we're looking at total deaths. And I'm just going to say HDL here, but it is, okay. But total deaths, yes, it's sort of, I mean, for HDL it's actually a little bit more flatter there, but basically, as cholesterol levels go up, your total death rate, it does go up, but if it gets under a certain amount, and it gets up much lower than heart disease. And there's actually this kind of sweet spot here where everything needs to be for HDL and LDL and all these things. There's a sweet spot. So the first and most important thing to know about your cholesterol levels is look at your HDL, your good cholesterol. Okay, because if your good cholesterol is too low, it's actually far worse for your health, including your heart, I believe, than what your total cholesterol is, even if it's high. So you can have really high, unless we're talking really stratospherically high. So again, I'm talking a bit of generalization, but basically if you're, and I'm going to do the UK numbers, but I will also do the US numbers. Now, these figures are the work of Dr. Brian Walsh. Originally, I worked off figures from various other functional medicine practitioners, but Dr. Brian Walsh has done a lot of extensive work, and so these are the figures that he's come up with from studying loads and loads and loads of scientific papers about what healthy cholesterol levels really should be. So if you're in the US, look up Dr. Brian Walsh. So UK numbers. So basically, and also this is another thing about cholesterol, is it's been known for a long time that women should have higher cholesterol than men. And in fact, when I first started in practice 25 years ago, doctors would have two different ranges, different range for men, different range for women. And women's cholesterol should be higher than men's. But then about 20 years ago, for whatever reason, maybe it's the people that were manufacturing pharmaceutical drugs, called statins, managed to convince doctors to ignore the fact that women need higher cholesterol and just look at the lower range for men, and just think about things of heart disease and nothing else. Okay, so basically, so there are two different ranges. So if you are a man, okay, the critical figure pretty much to look at for HDL cholesterol in UK figures is 1.42, and for women it is 1.68. 1.68. Okay, so if your HDL cholesterol and you're a man is under 1.42, it doesn't matter what your LDL cholesterol and your total cholesterol is, you don't want to lower it any further. Your doctor should actually be focusing on raising your HDL cholesterol, not lowering your bad cholesterol, but raising your good cholesterol. And the same with women, it's a bit higher, it's 1.68. So if your good cholesterol is lower than these numbers, men 1.42, women 1.68, your doctor needs to be focusing on raising your HDL cholesterol. Now the problem with statins is they don't just lower bad cholesterol, they also lower good cholesterol. So if this number is already low and they give you a statin, they're actually getting you into this danger zone even more, which you were already in. Because yes, they may be decreasing your chance of dying from heart disease, but they're then massively increasing your risk of dying from everything else, so much so that it doesn't matter about your risk of heart disease. So you really want to question your doctor about these HDL recommend, and these are not the figures that they'll be looking at, which is a real shame, because they're not taught that the numbers that they're looking at are actually massively out of date. So if your cholesterol is your HDL is under those numbers, then watch out. And the same for overall. Now the other thing about cholesterol is as you age, it becomes more predictive. So let's change colour here. Actually, let's give you the American numbers actually as well. So the American numbers, just so you know, okay, so for men, the lower limit is 55 in US units, and for women, it's 65, okay? Now there is an upper range as well, but I really want to, I see so many people more pushed down that it's horrific. So, but also, what is safe levels of higher cholesterol and also unsafe levels of low cholesterol? So really, the overall science, according to Dr. Brian Walsh, is if you're under 60, then in the UK, your low levels of total cholesterol, okay, anywhere between 3.11 and 6.22, which in American is 120 to 140. So if your cholesterol, if you're under 60, if your figures are between 3.11 and 6.22, if you're in the UK, America, Canada, it's 120 to 240. Okay, those are actually the healthy, that's the healthy range. It's quite a big range. Okay, and then as you get older, then the lower level comes up to about 4.40 and the upper range goes up. And for women, okay, women don't want their cholesterol to be under 5. Yet in the UK, which in America is 200 to 300, basically. So as you get older, the minimum level of cholesterol actually that is safe, it actually gets higher. So for women, total cholesterol of 5, yet in the UK, they want to actually medicate you and lower your statin. So it's a bit higher, sorry, 5.18, which is even worse. So basically, the minimum safe level of cholesterol for overall health for women is 5.18. Yet, according to what I see on here, they think you've got high cholesterol if it's over 5, men or women. Which basically means that the UK figures for lowering cholesterol are actually really dangerous for women over 60. So, yeah, you want to ask your doctor to look at all of these things. Okay, so you've had the cholesterol panel, they've looked at HDL, LDL, and total cholesterol. Your total cholesterol, you know, it might be 5, it might be 6, but really what you want to look at is what's your HDL cholesterol. But let's just say your HDL cholesterol is actually high and in the danger zone. Your LDL cholesterol is high and in the danger zone. What else? Or maybe there's a bit of conflict as well. Maybe you're a bit confused. So here are the other things that I looked at, and I'm going to start with the one thing that's almost completely ignored. I've never seen a doctor do anything about. Okay, and that's triglycerides. Triglycerides. You'll see this again on your blood test results. And triglycerides, again, they're a type of fat. They're made by your liver, and you don't want this number to be too high, but doctors tend to ignore, even if it's really high. And if it's high, it's usually a sign that there's something going on in the liver that's not good for your health, whether it's because of your diet, okay, because triglycerides will change more with your diet than cholesterol. Cholesterol is more about your liver health more than anything else and other things you may be doing. But triglycerides, if your triglycerides are high, it's a sign that your liver is overloaded with something. There are other reasons why triglycerides go up as well. Diabetes, which again, blood sugar, which is what you're eating anyway. But the thing about triglycerides, again, there is an upper and a lower limit. And in the UK, the lower limit is 0.57. If your triglycerides go under 0.57, and this is according to Dr. Brian Walsh and the studies that he's presented, is that you have a massive increased risk of autoimmune disorders. So that's where your own immune system is attacking itself. And again, if you've looked at my white blood cell video, you'll see that there are ways to look at it to see if you might have an autoimmune condition. But triglycerides is another factor that points out that you may have an autoimmune condition. And then your blood test can actually help to tell you why you've got an autoimmune condition, so you can do something about it. What's the lowest number? And so that's about 50. So in the US, that's 50 is the minimum. And then the upper range okay, is actually again much lower than is accepted in so it's 90. So if your triglycerides are over 1.02 in English or over 90 in American, it's a sign that your triglycerides are too high and there's a problem. So while the cholesterol levels, the science actually says it's the lower numbers you want to look out for, and actually you can actually have higher than what doctors are looking at. With triglycerides, it's actually a much narrower window that is actually been shown to be healthy. If it's outside of these ranges, your risk of dying goes up. So 1.02 or 90. 1.02 English, 90. So again, look at your panel. If these figures are out, there's a problem you need to do something about. Now, if it is heart disease, there are some other things that ideally American heart doctors do these because American doctors earn money by doing tests. In the UK, not so much. So in America, you're more likely to get these done. And so there's something called apolipoprotein B. This is very bad, and apolipoprotein B levels are much more linked to heart disease than cholesterol is. And you can get this done in the UK. And then there's apolipoprotein A, which I believe, so this is like bad cholesterol and this is like good cholesterol, I believe. And again, I don't know the actual, these are much newer, so that I don't know what the actual ranges are, but basically ApoB, if this is high, that's a really bad thing for heart disease. Apolipoprotein A, that's better. So the ratio, again, has been shown to be much more predictive of heart disease than looking at cholesterol and triglycerides. There's lots of other stuff you can learn from cholesterol and triglycerides, like autoimmunity, diabetes. I mean, cholesterol levels and all those things are much more linked to blood sugar problems, thyroid problems, and inflammation than they are directly to heart disease, which is crazy. And so looking at your lipid panel, someone like me can actually tell you, okay, it might be a thyroid, it might be inflammation, when you look at everything. But apolipoprotein B and A, and there's also something called homocysteine as well. Homocysteine. Okay, and these are much more linked to heart disease and all kinds of other things that are nasty for you than just looking at total cholesterol. Now, the thing about homocysteine, there's no drug to lower it, but the good news is it's very easy to lower when you get the right nutrition in your body, and you'll lower your heart disease risk factors. And again, there are things you can do to help with these as well, but there are some places where drugs are very useful. And so actually knowing more about this, and thank you to Dr. Mark Houston, that's the guy behind this book, one of the top heart doctors in the entire world. That's where I learned about that from. So let's say you have got a bad picture and you do actually need to do something to lower your cholesterol to get it under control, or maybe you need to raise your HDL cholesterol. Well, I've actually done a whole webinar going into more depth about what you can do. So not just about, okay, this is all wrong, this tells you sort of how to have a look at yourself and get a bit more information and sense from your own blood test. But then I've done a webinar on what to actually do according to this and according to Dr. Jack Wolfson and his approach and some other approaches. And it talks about the supplementation, including some things you can do to raise your good cholesterol at the same time as lowering your bad cholesterol. It's funky stuff. So I'll put a link to get that, and I've done a cheat sheet so you can actually just look at it and you can go, okay, right, and then you can go and get stuff whether you're in the UK or America or Canada. So I'll put a link to that below. Thank you for watching. Please share this information with people you know who might be on statins, who might be diabetics, who might have heart disease, because again, in this book, when it comes to actually how many pages? There's 22 pages all about all the different things you can do for dyslipidemia, i.e. cholesterol problems. It's not just, oh, you've got a cholesterol problem, it's high, take a statin. If it's low, don't do anything. There's actually 22 pages of information in here about all the things that you can do. There's a lot more to cholesterol than taking a statin drug. And this is all stuff compiled by doctors, hundreds of references in here, and cardiologists. So yeah, and that's what I've summarized. So it's not me coming from a chiropractic point of view, which is my original training. It's not me coming from a functional neurology training, which I've done a lot of functional neurology. It's not even me coming from a functional nutritional training. This is actually straight from cardiologists and textbooks on improving yourself And this is something that I recommend all doctors should get, and certainly cardiologists should get. Integrative Cardiovascular Medicine by Mark Houston. Okay. As ever, live long and prosper with magnificent health. And if you'd like help, reach out to me, Chris Pickard at beatbloodpressure.com.